never thought silence could cut deeper than betrayal, but that morning, when I found a crumpled envelope buried in the back of her closet, something inside me broke, and I didn't even know why yet. She was always the fortress of our family, my mother, the one who made Christmas feel magical even after my dad walked out, who held our world together with trembling hands and quiet smiles. The woman who laughed while her body decayed from the inside. We thought she was unshakable, but we were blind. I didn't know she was dying, not when she stirred the soup with fingers aching from chemo, not when she hummed lullabies to my brother with lungs gasping for air, not even when she whispered, "I just want one last snow." And maybe that's why she waited until Christmas Eve, to disappear beneath the illusion of joy. I used to think she was selfish for hiding it, now I wonder if we were selfish for never seeing. Why would a mother protect her family with silence instead of truth? Why would she leave a single voice message and trust it would be enough? I've listened to that message every night since, and still, I'm not ready to delete it. This isn't just about cancer, it's about the love that hides, endures, and sacrifices in silence, the kind of love that dies quietly so others can keep living loudly. If you've ever wondered what someone wasn't telling you, if you've ever wished you could go back and ask the right question, this story is for you. Backhand index pointing right. Please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Someone else might be carrying a silence you need to hear. I never meant to find it. That morning, I was kneeling on the creaky floorboards of my mother's bedroom closet, pulling aside the same worn shoe boxes she never threw out, old Christmas ornaments wrapped in brittle newspaper, their edges yellowed and curling like dried leaves. I was searching for the angel. The one with the broken wing and the crooked halo, the one she always insisted on placing last on the tree. Every angel has her flaws, she used to say. I didn't understand it then. Maybe I still don't, but the angel wasn't there. Not in the usual spot, not tucked in beside the ceramic Santas or the pine-scented candles. That's when I saw it. The envelope. It was buried under a stack of scarves that still smelled like her, lavender and something faintly metallic, like blood. I pulled it free, my hands trembling before I even realized why. The paper was soft with age, the edges curled, the ink faded but still legible. My name in her handwriting. That shaky, slanted cursive that always made the grocery list look like poetry. It hit me like a whisper in a thunderstorm. She'd written this for me. And hidden it. I held it like something sacred. Like something I wasn't supposed to see. And maybe I wasn't. Maybe this was one of those things she would have taken to her grave, and maybe that was the point. But she's already gone, and the envelope remained. What kind of secret survives its keeper? For a minute, maybe more, I just sat there, breathing her closet air, cold and dry and scented with time. I heard her voice in my head, soft but stern. Some things are better left unsaid. She'd said that more than once in her life, usually after I pressed her about something she didn't want to talk about. The past. Dad. The summer of '98. Her scar. The night I found her crying in the driveway with her car door wide open and the engine running. So many unsaids, but this envelope wasn't silent anymore. It throbbed with weight. I opened it. Inside was a single page, folded in 3, the creases crisp and deep. I unfolded it slowly, afraid the words might shatter. The first line stole the breath from my lungs. If you're reading this, I'm already gone. My eyes blurred. The paper trembled. There was a stillness in the closet, like time had paused to listen. Like the house itself was holding its breath. I felt the echo of something unspoken in the walls, in the air. A crack forming, subtle and silent. What could she possibly have written that couldn't be said while she was alive? I read on, even as a tightness crept into my chest. Whatever came next, I knew there was no turning back. The version of my mother I thought I knew had just shifted. Tilted, and something deep inside me, a childlike part one thought had long been buried, began to fear what truth might come. I should have known something was off that year. There was a kind of desperation in the way she smiled, wide, fixed, like it was held together with pins. Her eyes always shimmered when she looked at me, but that year, they glistened for different reasons. Not joy. Not pride. Something quieter. Sadder. Like she was already mourning something she hadn't lost yet, she wrapped every gift in gold paper and tied them with ribbons so perfect it felt ceremonial. Like she was preparing an offering, not celebrating. The bows were symmetrical. The corners folded with surgical precision. I didn't notice then, of course. I was too busy scrolling through my phone, trying to ignore the silence between us that had begun to stretch like thread pulled taut. One wrong tug and it would snap. I remember the way she insisted we all wear red. I wanted to feel warm this year, she said, stirring cocoa like she was summoning comfort from the bottom of the pot. Her fingers trembled on the spoon. She dropped it once, and the clang echoed too loud in the quiet kitchen. We both flinched. I asked if she was okay. She laughed. That dry, clipped kind of laugh that comes from the throat, not the gut, of course, darling. It's just the season. Always a little crazy, isn't it? She wore her favorite reindeer sweater, the one with the missing button near the collar. She wore it even though it was itchy. She said it was tradition. We took photos by the tree. So many. She made me stand in front of the fireplace, then by the window, then with the cat, then again but laughing this time, then serious, then smiling, again. I asked why so many. She just said, I want to get it right. But now I know what she meant. She didn't care about getting it right. She was trying to make something last. Those photos are still on my phone. I looked through them last night. In one, she's looking at me, not the camera. There's something in her eyes. A secret she never said. A goodbye she didn't speak. I think that was the moment she decided. She knew it would be the last Christmas, she knew, and none of us saw it. Or maybe she wanted it that way. Wanted us to keep believing it was just the cold that made her hands shake. That the tiredness was just work. That the half-empty wine bottle was a celebration, not a crutch. It wasn't until later that I remembered what she said as she tucked the angel on top of the tree. Every angel has her flaws. It sounded sweet at the time. Poetic. But now it feels like a warning. As if she was trying to prepare me for the fall. I hope it snows. That's what she whispered, barely audible, like a confession meant for someone else, someone braver. I didn't think anything of it then. Just another quiet moment between us, stitched into the fabric of a long, ordinary night. I turned off the lamp, kissed her forehead, and told her to sleep well. I didn't know that would be our last bedtime talk. The next morning, the world had changed. I woke to silence. The kind of silence that swells behind your ears, cottony and unreal. Outside, snow was falling in slow, deliberate spirals, thick flakes that covered the street, the lawn, the crooked mailbox she refused to replace. Everything was softer, muffled. Clean, she was already on the porch, wrapped in her navy blanket, the one with the missing corner and the frayed edges. Her feet were bare, toes pink with cold, but she didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she didn't care. Her eyes were wide, almost glowing, like a child seeing magic for the first time. Or maybe the last. It's beautiful, she said, voice trembling but sure. Even broken things look new in snow. I remember the way she smiled, half-formed and distant, like it belonged to a memory she was still chasing. I stood in the doorway, unsure whether to join her or pretend this wasn't happening. Her cheeks were wet. I asked her if she was cold. And she said no. I just miss my mother, she whispered, and that was the end of it. She didn't explain. And I didn't ask. I thought I was respecting her silence. But now I wonder if I was just hiding in mind. We miss so many signs. We rewrite them into softer versions. We tuck them into corners we promise to visit later. I told myself she just needed a moment. That the snow was nostalgia, not prophecy, but who sits outside in the freezing cold unless they're waiting for Something or someone that day, she didn't eat. Didn't speak again. She watched the snow fall for hours like it was telling her a story she already knew the ending to. I watched her from the kitchen window, her silhouette a quiet shape against the blur of white. I should have gone to her. Wrapped my arms around her shoulders. Asked her what she meant. Asked her if she was saying goodbye, but I didn't. Instead, I made tea. I folded laundry. I swept the floor like the world was still ordinary. I told myself tomorrow would be warmer. That this was just a moment, a storm, a mood that it wasn't. Now the porch is empty. The snow has long since melted. But that morning replays. In my mind like a warning I ignored. How many signs do we miss, simply because we're too afraid to ask the question that might break us? And worse, what if the answer was the thing that could have saved her? She sang to my little brother every night, her voice raspy like wind through brittle leaves. Off key, sometimes barely above a whisper. But he didn't care. Neither did I. There was something in the way she lingered on the last note, like she didn't want to let it go. Like letting go meant the whole illusion might crumble. Even when her lungs rattled like a loose window pane in winter, she'd sit on the edge of his bed, stroking his hair with hands that trembled too much to hold. A coffee mug. He was 5. Too little to notice the things I did. Too young to see the shadow growing behind her eyes, but I saw it. I saw her white-knuckled grip on the edge of the kitchen counter, steadying herself like the ground had shifted under her. I saw her wince when she reached for the plates, her hand pausing midair as though she was calculating the price of the movement. Pain has a way of revealing itself if you pay close enough attention. And I did. Because something didn't feel right. Not for a long time. Then there was the morning I found her on the bathroom floor, curled up, knees tucked to her chest, the tile beneath her slick with sweat and something else I didn't want to name. Her face was pale, translucent almost, like a ghost caught between here and wherever people go when they're done pretending. She looked at me with a flash of something wild in her eyes, fear, maybe. Or fury. It's just the flu, she said, her voice barely audible. I knelt beside her. Should I call someone? She shook her head. Moms don't get to fall apart. And then, as if the statement alone had rewound time, she stood. Not gracefully, but with a kind of grim determination, like she was dragging herself through invisible cement. 10 minutes later she was flipping pancakes, the scent of burnt batter filling the kitchen while my little brother sang to his cereal. I sat at the table, watching her with a knot in my throat. Every movement she made felt like a lie told with a smile. And I wanted to believe it. God, I wanted to believe her, because if she was fine, then everything else could stay the same. I could be a kid again, and not this version of myself, this too watchful, too aware shadow sitting in the corner of our lives. I could go back to sleep without wondering if I'd wake up to silence, but that day, something changed. Something cracked, like ice under pressure. She didn't sing that night. She sat on the floor outside my brother's room, back against the wall, eyes closed. I watched her from the hallway, hidden in the dark. Her lips moved silently, maybe repeating the words of the lullaby to herself, or maybe praying to a god she hadn't spoken to in years. I don't know which scared me more. She left it at 3:12 a.m., the night before Christmas Eve. I didn't hear it until morning. The little screen on my phone blinked, a missed call. No name, no number, just a lonely timestamp that haunted me like a ghost. I stared at it, frozen. Heart pounding in the quiet house. It was her. I knew it before I even pressed play. I swiped, and the tiny speaker whispered to life, "Hi, honey. Don't be scared. I just wanted to say, thank you." Her voice was fragile. So fragile it sounded like she was speaking through a thick fog, 1,000 miles away from me. There was a crack in it, a tremble, as if she was fighting not to break down right then and there. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching the phone. As if it were a lifeline thrown across an impossible distance. "I tried my best to protect you from this," she said, and my throat closed tight. The weight of those words fell on me like ice water. What was this? What had she been hiding? The silent wars she fought alone? The pain she carried in silence, so I wouldn't have to? "You were always my light," she whispered, and I could almost see her, bathed in the pale glow of the Christmas tree lights, smiling through tears she'd never let me see. Then there was silence, the kind of silence that stretches and wraps itself around you, suffocating and endless. I kept the phone pressed to my ear, waiting for more, but the message ended there. No farewell. No explanation. Just her voice, so small, so broken. It's still on my phone. I've played it more times than I care to admit. The battery dies before she finishes speaking. I recharge it just to hear her again, like a lifeline to a past that refuses to let go. It's the sound of a goodbye she never said, the secret she only left for me in the dark hours before the world woke up. I've imagined what she was feeling when she left that message, the fear, the regret, the love she couldn't say out loud in daylight. What demons was she fighting in the silence? What sorrow was so deep she had to thank me before she disappeared? I keep asking myself, what if those final words I never heard are the ones I'll regret missing for the rest of my life? What if that silence between her words was where the truth hid, the truth I'm still trying to find? I'm learning that sometimes the hardest part of grief isn't losing someone. It's living with all the unsaid things they left behind. All the broken promises, the hidden pain, the last words caught in a voice message at 3:12 a.m. The message is more than a memory. It's a ghost I can't shake, a riddle wrapped in a mother's love and loss, and maybe, somewhere between those fractured breaths, there's forgiveness waiting for me, if I'm brave enough to listen. I hated her for a while, not in the way a child throws tantrums or screams into the night. No, this hate was quieter, more corrosive. It nestled deep inside my stomach like a cold stone, hidden beneath layers of guilt and confusion. It was the kind of hate that doesn't announce itself with fireworks, but with silence, the silence that sits between you and a phone that never rings, between the voice you never hear and the words that never come. I blamed her for not telling me. For keeping the truth locked away, like it was some poison she feared would seep into my veins if she breathed it out loud. Why didn't she trust me with the pain? Why didn't she let me carry some of it, even just a little? I imagined that if she had told me, maybe I could have done something, anything, to help. Maybe I could have stopped the sadness from swallowing her whole, and then I blamed myself for not knowing. For missing the signs that screamed beneath the surface. How had I not seen it? How had I not heard the cracks in her voice or felt the way her hands trembled when she thought no one was watching? I played it over and over in my mind, every conversation, every glance, every silence, and convinced myself I had failed her. My brother, Liam, cried once. Just once. And then never again. He said something one night, in a voice I hadn't heard before, soft, almost broken. She didn't want us to carry her pain, he told me. She kept it all to herself so we wouldn't have to. His words made sense, but they didn't lessen the weight on my chest. Because what she left us was heavier than pain. It was regret. Regret for the words we never said, the hugs we never gave, the moments we never shared. Regret that would sit with us like an unwelcome guest. Long after the house grew quiet, I found myself going back to her letter again and again, like a desperate prayer. I read and reread the lines until the paper grew thin where my fingers traced the folds. The ink began to fade, but her words burned bright in my mind. You didn't fail me, she wrote, simple words. A lifeline tossed across the chasm of grief. But grief is a cruel teacher. It doesn't listen to logic, or reason, or reassurance. It speaks in its own language: lonely nights, empty rooms, unanswered questions. Sometimes I wonder if she wrote that for herself as much as for me. If those words were a shield she gave herself, to protect her from the crushing weight of her own silence. Or maybe they were a final plea for me to forgive her, and myself. I'm still learning how. The blame is still there. Sometimes it rises like a tide, threatening to drown me. But I'm starting to understand that hate and forgiveness can live in the same place. That it's okay to be angry and still love her. That the silence she left behind isn't just emptiness, it's a space I'm slowly learning to fill with memory, with understanding, and maybe, one day, with peace. I asked for her medical records because I needed proof. Proof that the silence I'd lived with wasn't just my imagination. Proof that the pieces I'd been trying to fit together, fragments of whispered phone calls, vague explanations, and the shadows in her eyes, weren't just cracks in my memory. The nurse behind the counter looked at me like I was asking for the moon. Her eyes narrowed, just the slightest flicker of hesitation before she spoke. She came alone. Every time. The words hit me harder than I expected. Alone. She didn't want anyone there. No friends, no family, not even us. I thought about all the times I begged her to let me take her to appointments, to sit with her while she waited. She always shook her head, a faint smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I don't want you to see me like this, she'd say. Like what? Like someone broken? Like someone scared? I never understood until now. 6 months of chemotherapy. Radiation treatments that burned through her like acid. Blood transfusions that left her pale and hollow-eyed, all while she fought this war in silence, while she kept the front door locked against us. Against the people who loved her most. Not a single call to her children. Not a single whispered confession or plea for help. The woman who raised us through storms didn't want to be a storm herself. I felt anger bubbling up, raw and bitter. How could she leave us out in the rain, standing alone? But beneath the anger was something else, something softer, more complicated. I found the list in her purse later that day. A crumpled piece of paper, folded and refolded until the edges were soft and worn. Handwritten goals. Small things she'd wanted to do, finish. Quilt. The quilt she started when I was a child, sewing scraps of fabric into a patchwork of memories. Bake with Liam. Liam, my little brother, the one she always doted on. One more snowfall. All crossed out except that last one nod at me. One more snowfall. She wanted to see the world softened by snow one more time. One last quiet, white moment of peace before everything ended. I stared at the list like it was a map, a guide to what she held onto when everything else was slipping away. The hospital files didn't tell me why she never told us. They didn't explain the silence or the absence, but the list did. She was trying to protect us. To shield us from the storm raging inside her, and maybe, just maybe, she wanted us to remember her in the quiet moments. The ones filled with love and light and snow. I folded the list carefully, tucking it into my jacket pocket, because even when she was gone, she still left clues, and I was determined to follow them, no matter how painful the journey. I found it one afternoon, tucked away in the dark space beneath her bed, folded carefully like a secret she was still guarding. The quilt was heavier than I expected, a patchwork of memories stitched together with thread worn thin by time and love. It wasn't just fabric, it was a story, our story, pieced together from the fragments of a life that felt both distant and close all at once. Each square was a portal to the past. There was my brother's faded baby blanket, the soft blue fabric, frayed at the edges where tiny hands had clung and let go so many times. Next to it, a swatch of my old prom dress, the deep emerald silk that had shimmered under the hall's lights, now muted and threadbare. And then there was the unmistakable red and black flannel from my father's shirt. The one he had worn the night he walked away, leaving a hollow where a family used to stand. She had taken these scraps, these remnants of joy and heartbreak, and woven them into something enduring. I ran my fingers over the stitches, some neat, Some hurried, some unraveling at the corners, and felt the weight of every moment she tried to hold on to. It was like she was telling me, through every tangled thread, that even when pieces fall apart, they can be held together again. That we can be held together again. I in the center, embroidered in looping cursive, was a simple message: you were always enough. Those words hit me harder than anything else I'd found in her things. Enough. Not perfect. Not flawless. Just enough. The kind of truth we all crave but rarely say aloud. I clutched the quilt to my chest and wrapped myself in its warmth, letting the tears fall without shame. Not because she was gone, though that pain never really left, but because in that moment, I felt her presence more clearly than I ever had. She hadn't truly left, not really. She was there in the worn stitches, in the smell of the fabric soaked with years of spilled coffee and perfume and tears. She was there in the quilt's uneven edges and the faded colors that had weathered through seasons and storms. She was there, holding me even when she couldn't hold herself. For years, I had thought that her silence, her distance, was abandonment. That her struggles were invisible walls built between us. But this quilt, this fragile, imperfect tapestry, was proof that beneath all that pain, she was trying to keep us whole. I sat on the floor with the quilt wrapped tight, the late afternoon sun filtering through the curtains and casting long shadows. My brother came in quietly, his eyes tired but understanding. He sat beside me, and without a word, pulled the other side of the quilt over his shoulders. For a moment, we were just two children again, shielded by the love our mother had sewn into every square. It didn't erase the grief or the anger or the questions that still burned inside me. But it gave me something else, a thread of hope. That even broken things, when pieced together with care, can become beautiful again. That love, in its messy, ragged form, can outlast pain, and that maybe, just maybe, healing begins when we learn to hold on to the memories, to each other, and to the quiet strength stitched between the cracks. Grief is a strange animal. It changes shape in the dark, slipping through the cracks of your heart when you least expect it. At first, it was raw, a pulsing wound that refused to heal. Anger came next, sharp and bitter, burning like cold fire. I shouted in my mind at her, at myself, at the empty chair she left behind. Then the anger faded into silence, a heavy, suffocating quiet that wrapped itself around me like a shroud. Shame followed close behind, crawling in like an unwelcome guest, whispering lies about weakness and failure. I spent months walking through that shadowed forest, lost and aching. I blamed her for leaving without a word. I blamed myself for not seeing the signs, for not being enough. I blamed the world for letting her slip away while I was still busy pretending everything was fine. But one night, everything shifted. Liam, my little brother, was standing at the window in our old living room, the one with the cracked wooden frame and the faded curtains. He was barely visible in the moonlight, a small silhouette against the glass. I heard him whisper softly, almost like a prayer, "Good night, Mom." I froze. He wasn't talking to me. He wasn't talking to the empty room. He was talking to the sky. His voice trembled with a mixture of sadness and hope, the kind of fragile faith only a child can hold when the world feels broken. For a moment, I wanted to yell at him, to tell him it was foolish, that she was gone for good. But the words caught in my throat. It was then that I stopped asking why. I stopped searching for reasons, for excuses, for answers that would never come. The endless questions that had consumed me since the day she left suddenly seemed pointless. Instead, I began to love her differently, not for the mother I wished she could have been, but for the woman who survived her own darkness as long as she did, for the strength it took to keep us whole when she was quietly unraveling inside, for the sacrifices she made, choosing our happiness over her own pain, for the small, beautiful moments, the way she laughed through tears, the way she tucked Liam in at night even when her hands shook, and for that last snowfall, the snow she waited for The snow that covered everything in silence and made broken things look new again. I wrapped myself in the warmth of that love, fragile and incomplete, but real. Forgiveness didn't come all at once. It came in fragments, scattered like pieces of glass reflecting the soft glow of a distant light. Some days, the pieces fit together and I felt whole. Other days, they slipped through my fingers, sharp and jagged, but with each fragment, I found a little more peace, a little more grace, a little more hope. And that night, watching Liam say goodnight to the sky, I realized that healing isn't about forgetting or fixing what's broken, it's about holding on to the light that still shines through the cracks, because sometimes, love is all we have left. I still remember that night like it was yesterday, our first Christmas without her. The house felt hollow, as if the walls themselves had exhaled a long, mournful sigh the moment she was gone. We decorated the tree early, clumsily, as if trying to fill the emptiness with tinsel and blinking lights. My brother Liam and I moved slowly, the silence between us thick and heavy, each of us carrying the weight of a loss too big to name. I pulled out my phone and hesitated. The voice message. The one she'd left just before Christmas Eve. For weeks, I had played it over and over, letting her faint voice cradle me in the dark. But tonight, I decided to play it out loud. "Hi, honey," her voice said, fragile like a glass ornament teetering on the edge of the tree. "Don't be scared. I just wanted to say, thank you. I tried my best to protect you from this. You were always my light." Her words trembled in the quiet room, echoing off the walls that had witnessed so many family Christmases filled with laughter and love. Liam squeezed my hand, his own eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "She would have liked the lights," he whispered, but I nodded, feeling the sting of tears trailing down my cheeks and mingling with the faint smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. It was a smile I hadn't allowed myself in a long time, not since the silence after her death had swallowed us whole. Outside the window, the first snowflakes of the season began to fall, slow and big, drifting down like feathered whispers from the sky. The kind of snow that blankets everything in quiet, making the world softer, gentler. Just like that morning, the morning I found her sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes wide with a fragile kind of hope. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, breath fogging the pain. "Thank you for waiting until the world was soft again," I whispered to the falling snow, to the memory of her, to whatever it was that held her back and then let her go. For the first time in months, maybe years, it didn't hurt to breathe. The grief still lingered, how could it not? But it no longer felt like a chain around my chest. Instead, it was a thread I could hold on to, delicate but real. A reminder that even in the coldest winters, there is warmth to be found. In love, in memory, in the light we carry forward. I looked at Liam again. He smiled, a small, hopeful thing, and I realized that this was what she wanted for us all. To find a way through the dark, to keep going even when the weight of loss threatened to crush us. Tonight, beneath the soft glow of Christmas lights and the hush of falling snow, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, healing could begin. And as I turned off the phone and closed the door to her empty room, I felt a quiet peace settle inside me, a fragile, flickering light. One last light. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. You never know whose story your kindness might help heal.